You step outside on a clear night. The air is still, the sky wide and endless. Above you, stars scatter like pinpricks of light on an infinite dome, and beneath your feet, the ground feels flat, steady, unquestionable. You know because you've been told, because every map and globe confirms it, that Earth is a sphere. And yet, when you look around, nothing in your senses screams curvature. The horizon stretches out like a ruler's edge, unbroken, steady. Mountains rise, oceans fall away, but always your eyes report the same verdict, flat. You pause for a moment and think, can you actually see Earth's curve with your own eyes, or is it something you have to trust, something only machines, rockets, and astronauts can prove? It's a strange tension, isn't it? The everyday world tells you one story, smooth and simple, while science whispers another, vast and counterintuitive. You might even feel a flicker of doubt if the Earth truly curves away beneath you. Where is the evidence when you stand on a beach, staring out at the sea? Why does the horizon not bend like a bowl, sloping away? Why does it meet your gaze so flatly, so stubbornly? Your eyes, after all, are your most trusted witnesses. They guide you, protect you, connect you to reality. And yet, when it comes to the curve of Earth, they seem strangely silent, almost evasive. The thought lingers like an itch. What if what you see isn't the whole truth? You picture standing on a high mountain, wind biting at your face, rocks beneath your boots. You look out, and for the first time you sense something, a faint bow, a suggestion that the world really does bend away, curving into distance. But is it real, or just your imagination bending along with your belief? There's a deeper question buried here, one that the title of this video quietly provokes. Do you truly need faith in scientists and textbooks, or can you rely on your own raw vision, your own lived experience, to tell you the truth about the shape of the planet you walk upon? And more unsettling still, what if your senses, so reliable in everyday life, are designed not for truth, but for survival? What if the horizon looks flat not because it is, but because your brain edits reality into something practical, something usable? You tilt your head back, looking up into the night sky again, and a ripple of realization slides over you. Maybe the curve of Earth isn't something you're supposed to see easily. Maybe it's hidden, stretched across scales so vast that your body, so small, so brief, cannot register it directly. And yet sailors once claimed to see it, pilots swear they glimpse it. Photographs from the edge of space capture it in aching blue arcs. Which voice do you trust? Your eyes, which offer a flat horizon, or the collective testimony of explorers and machines that insist on a curve? It is a quiet paradox, a tension between sight and knowledge, between what is immediate and what is vast. You hold it in your hands like a fragile stone, the question of whether the truth of Earth's curve belongs to you and your naked eyes, or whether it lives forever in the instruments we build to see further than we can. And tonight, as you let that question settle, you realize it is not a trivial puzzle. It is a doorway. Because if the world is curved and you cannot quite see it, then what other truths lie hidden beyond the reach of your senses? You feel the weight of that thought pressing gently, like the pull of gravity itself. As you stand beneath the stars and wait for the story to unfold, you keep your eyes fixed on the horizon as if by staring long enough you might catch it in the act of curving. But it doesn't. It lies there calm, flat, faithful to your senses, and that perhaps is the first betrayal. Because what your senses deliver to you is not the raw, unfiltered world. It is a polished version, simplified, compressed, made manageable. Think about your eyes for a moment. You believe they're like cameras passively recording what's out there, but the truth is stranger. Each eye collects scattered photons, funnels them through lenses, and paints them onto a surface less than a millimeter thick at the back of your skull. Already the signal is incomplete. Already your brain is filling in gaps, correcting distortions, smoothing chaos into order. You don't see everything, you see only enough. Your vision is stitched together like a quilt, riddled with holes that you never notice. The blind spot in each eye is erased by clever editing. Flickers of motion are emphasized because they matter for survival. Colors are exaggerated in daylight and muted in the dark, all to save energy. The horizon, stretched across dozens of kilometers, is reduced into a single, simple line, flat, manageable. And this is where the broken intuition begins, because your senses weren't designed to answer cosmic questions. They weren't shaped to measure the sweep of continents or the curvature of seas. They were tuned to keep you alive, finding food, avoiding predators, recognizing faces. The horizon doesn't reveal its curve to you for the same reason you can't feel the earth spinning beneath your feet. Your nervous system has no evolutionary incentive to notice. But still, you wonder, shouldn't there be some trick, some way to see the bend with your own eyes? Isn't there a way to pierce through the evolutionary blindfold? Consider this. Imagine standing on the shore watching a ship sail away. At first it is whole, a tower of masts, bright sails, the hull cutting through water. But as it drifts further, something curious happens. The bottom of the ship disappears first, swallowed by the horizon. Then little by little the rest follows, until at last only the tips of the tallest masts remain, flickering like whispers of what once was. If the earth were flat, the ship would only shrink, never vanish piece by piece. You would always see its full outline getting smaller, smaller but whole. Yet what you actually see is different, a gradual sinking as though the ship is sliding behind the bulge of the sea. That bulge is curvature, revealed not directly, but indirectly through the way it steals ships from your sight. And yet the mind resists. Your intuition fights back. Perhaps the ship is sinking because of waves or haze or distortions of light. Perhaps you misremember. Perhaps it is imagination. Your senses, so often reliable, feel betrayed when they ask a question too large for them to answer. You climb higher, from the deck to the cliff, from the cliff to the mountain. Each step upward broadens your horizon. And here, hidden in that expansion, lies another clue. At sea level, your horizon stretches only a few kilometers before it bends away. But from the mountain's peak, your reach expands dozens, hundreds of kilometers. The higher you climb, the further you see, because the earth curves away beneath you, hiding what lies beyond. But still, your eyes don't quite register the bend itself. They only register the consequence. More world revealed, more distance visible as you rise above the curve. It is like watching the shadow of something enormous rather than the thing itself. And maybe that is the lesson. The curve of the earth hides in plain sight, but only in motion, only in comparison, only in patterns revealed over scale. It is not like the curve of a ball you hold in your hand. It is more subtle, stretched thin across a planet so large that its bending is almost imperceptible from any single human vantage point. A pause here, take that in. Your planet is so vast, so incomprehensibly wide that its curvature, the very thing that defines its shape, is almost invisible to you. Not because it isn't there, but because you are too small. Your senses are tuned for local truths, not planetary ones. This is humbling, isn't it? To realize that your direct perception is insufficient, that you must lean on inference, on imagination, on science itself to see what your eyes alone cannot. And yet this doesn't diminish your experience. In fact, it deepens it. It forces you to ask, what is the horizon really? The horizon isn't a line painted on the world. It is geometry made visible. It is the edge of what you can see, determined by the curve of the earth beneath you. Beyond it, the world continues, hidden only by the bending surface. Every time you look out and see the horizon, you are not seeing flatness. You are seeing the rim of a sphere, the limit set by curvature itself. But your intuition doesn't frame it that way. Your intuition whispers, the horizon is flat, straight, dependable. It resists the truth because the truth operates at a scale larger than your body, larger than your daily life. And here lies the crack in your confidence, because if your senses can be fooled so easily, what else might you be blind to? What other truths might stretch beyond the grasp of human intuition? You let that thought linger, heavy but strangely calming. It reminds you that knowledge is not a simple reflection of sight. It is built layer upon layer from experience, experimentation, and correction. You do not see the Earth's curve directly, not in the way you see a tree or a mountain, but you see its fingerprints, its shadows, its consequences, ships sinking hull first, horizons broadening with altitude, stars shifting in the sky as you travel north or south. And so the paradox deepens. You cannot look out and see a great sweeping arc, yet everywhere you look, the curvature hides in the details. You live inside its evidence, bathed in it, carried by it, while your eyes tell you only of flatness. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the tension rest. The contradiction does not need to resolve, not yet. Instead, it can stay open, alive, humming quietly in your mind, because the truth of the Earth's curve is not a single moment of vision. It is a gradual awakening, a layering of insights that together build the picture your eyes alone cannot provide. You open your eyes again. The horizon is still there, flat and steady. But now, beneath the surface of that flatness, you feel a secret, the quiet bow of a planet too large to reveal itself all at once. And with that secret stirring in you, you step closer to the next question. If your eyes alone are not enough, what evidence stacks high enough to carry you beyond doubt? You stand at the edge of the thought like someone peering over a cliff. Below lies the tension you've been holding. Your eyes tell one story, the sciences another. It's not enough to shrug and say, well, maybe it's curved, maybe it is. No, if the Earth's curvature is real, it must leave traces. It must leave a trail of evidence thick enough for anyone willing to follow. So you begin to gather it. Not just hearsay or textbook illustrations, but phenomena you can experience, test, or imagine with clarity. An evidence stack. One piece placed carefully atop the other until the invisible becomes undeniable. The first piece you already touched, the vanishing ships eaten by the horizon hull first. But now you press deeper. This isn't a trick of light, though light can play tricks. It's consistent, repeatable, predictable. You can measure it. A ship of a given height disappears at a given distance, and the geometry matches exactly what you'd expect if the Earth were curved. The numbers fall into place as if the ocean itself is conspiring with the sphere. But that's just the beginning. You turn your gaze skyward where another layer of evidence waits. The stars. The night sky is not the same everywhere. Travelers have known this for thousands of years. Move north and the North Star climbs higher in the sky. Move south and it sinks until at last it vanishes below the horizon. In its place, new constellations rise, Southern Cross, bright and foreign to northern eyes. On a flat Earth, the stars would not behave this way. They would shift perhaps, but not disappear behind a curve. Yet they do vanish, swallowed by the planet's bending surface, as though the Earth itself is a stage, and only part of the sky is visible from each seat in the theater. You imagine ancient sailors navigating by starlight. They could read the curvature without naming it, simply by watching which stars dipped below the horizon as their ships sailed south. The world whispered its roundness to them, night after night, long before satellites, long before telescopes, long before any astronaut looked down and saw the arc of blue Earth beneath them. Still you want more, something closer, something undeniable. You think of the moon. During a lunar eclipse, the Earth casts its shadow across the lunar face. That shadow is always curved, no matter the angle, no matter the time. A round shadow from a round object, not an oval, not a jagged edge, but a perfect arc. Again and again, through centuries of eclipses, the Earth's shadow has confessed its shape. You stack this piece atop the others, ships vanishing, stars shifting, shadows curving. Already the picture grows heavy with weight. And yet the stack climbs higher still. Consider gravity. On a flat world, gravity would pull differently at different points, toward the center of the disk or at an angle if you stood near the edge. But what we feel is not that. We feel the same downward pull wherever we are. Drop a ball in New York, in Nairobi, in New Delhi, and it falls the same way, toward the center of a sphere. Even the way oceans cling, bulging at the equator, spinning slightly outward from Earth's rotation, is evidence. Water obeys a globe. Think too of flight. Pilots and navigators plan their routes across great circles, the shortest path between 2 points on a sphere. Airlines know this intuitively, practically. A flight from Los Angeles to Tokyo arcs northward, bending close to Alaska, not because the Earth is flat, but because on a globe that curve is the true straight line. When you sit in an airplane and watch the flight path snake across the monitor, you are looking at the geometry of a curved world, projected onto a flat screen. And there are photographs, of course, images from the edge of space, from weather balloons, from orbiting stations, from the moon itself. The iconic blue marble suspended in darkness, curved edges gleaming. But you remind yourself photographs can be doubted, dismissed as trickery. Better to lean on the evidence your senses can engage with directly. And so you circle back. Ships vanish, stars shift, shadows arc, gravity pulls, flight paths curve. Piece by piece, the evidence forms a tower. You climb it slowly, steadily, until the doubts grow thinner, lighter. And still there is more. Consider time itself. When the sun rises in Tokyo, it is still night in London. When afternoon warms Sao Paulo, dawn is only brushing Los Angeles. This is not a trick of clocks, not a human invention. It is the reality of a spinning sphere, half bathed in light, half swaddled in shadow. On a flat plane, the light would spill differently, unevenly, exposing contradictions. Yet every sunrise, every sunset, every turning of the seasons agrees with the roundness of the planet. Even shadows on Earth itself speak. Long ago, a man named Eratosthenes measured the difference in shadow length between two cities at the same time of day. One city's shadow laned, another's fell straight down. From that difference, he calculated Earth's circumference with remarkable accuracy over 2,000 years ago. His experiment is so simple you could recreate it yourself, with nothing but 2 sticks, 2 friends in different cities, and the patience to measure shadows. You pause here, considering the elegance of that. A man with no satellites, no cameras, no rockets, just sunlight, sticks, and reason, was able to read the curve of the Earth. His evidence still holds, as strong now as it was then. The stack is tall now, towering over your doubts. Each piece adds weight, stability. It no longer matters that your eyes don't shout curvature when you gaze at the horizon. The evidence accumulates, weaving itself into a pattern too consistent to ignore. And yet you feel something subtle as you look at this pile of proof. A strange mix of awe and humility. Awe because the evidence is everywhere, hiding in plain sight, waiting only for you to notice. Humility because your senses alone would never have revealed it. The world is curved, but too vast for you to see in one glance. You require patience, imagination, and trust in the weaving of many threads. You cannot hold the Earth's curve in your palm, but you can build it piece by piece until the whole picture takes shape. You step back and look at the stack again, ships sinking, stars shifting, shadows curving, gravity pulling, flights bending, time zones cycling, sticks measuring, each one a brick, together a tower, together a truth. But a whisper rises, soft, insistent. If the evidence is so strong, why does doubt persist? Why does intuition keep tugging at you, whispering its stubborn flatness? Perhaps it is because counter-arguments exist, clever and persistent, attempting to reshape the evidence into another story. And if you are to rest easy, you must face those too. The tower is strong, but every tower must endure a test. And so you prepare yourself for the counter case. You've built a tower of evidence in your mind, each block solid, each piece fitting neatly into place. Ships fading hull first, constellations shifting, shadows bending, flights curving, clocks disagreeing. It feels strong, but part of you hesitates, because strength untested is fragile. A tower looks unshakable only until the first tremor, and you know there are tremors, doubts, counter-stories, strange explanations that cling to intuition. So you turn and face them, one by one. The first voice is simple, almost childlike. If Earth is round, why does the horizon look flat? It's the question that haunted you from the beginning. You look out and the line is straight. No curve, no arc, no bowing away, just a blade dividing earth from sky. And this voice insists, trust your eyes, they do not lie. It's powerful because it feels true. Sight is your most trusted sense, the one you rely on every moment of your life. And yet you know from experience that sight can deceive. A pencil dipped into a glass of water bends strangely, broken by refraction. A desert road seems to shimmer with liquid, a mirage born of heat. The moon hangs huge on the horizon but shrinks as it climbs the sky, though it never changes size at all. The flat horizon is another of these illusions. The Earth's curve is there but stretched so wide that your perspective flattens it, like an enormous painting held too close to your face. The truth hides not in what you see at once, but in how things vanish, how horizons expand with height, how shadows shift with distance. The voice of flatness is not malicious, it's simply lazy, relying only on the easiest surface view. Still, the counter-arguments grow louder. Some say ships don't sink over a curve. They disappear because of air distortion, haze, or waves blocking the lower parts. And it's true, air shimmers, waves rise, haze blurs, but distortions are inconsistent, flickering, unpredictable. The curve is consistent, measurable. You can watch through a telescope. The hull is gone even when the air is clear, the sea calm, the magnification strong. A distortion cannot erase the ship in pieces, from bottom to top, with clockwork precision. Only curvature explains that steady vanishing act. Then there is the question of airplanes. Some argue if Earth is curved, pilots would have to constantly push the nose downward to avoid flying off into space. At first glance, it sounds reasonable. After all, a plane is flying straight, shouldn't it escape the sphere's surface? But this is a misunderstanding of what straight means. An airplane doesn't fly into nothingness, it moves within gravity's grip. Straight on Earth means straight relative to the planet's surface, and gravity continuously pulls the plane toward that surface. Pilots don't need to push downward. The planet itself keeps them in a curved path, the same way satellites orbit by falling around the Earth endlessly. Another voice whispers of perspective. Look at the skyline, it says. Buildings do not lean away from you, though on a sphere they should tilt. Look across a plane and everything is upright, never slanted. Again, the intuition feels sharp, but the Earth is enormous, so large that the tilt of buildings on its curve is too small to see with your naked eye. They are leaning fractionally toward the planet's center, but the effect is swallowed by scale. The difference is measurable only with careful instruments. A city does not look like a fan of buildings bowing away because the curve is spread across kilometers. To your eyes, they remain parallel. The counter-arguments try another angle. If Earth is spinning, why don't you feel it? Shouldn't you be hurled off by the speed? This voice is persuasive because it tugs at bodily intuition. You know the feel of speed, a car accelerating, a roller coaster dropping, a plane lifting. But speed is not what you feel. You feel acceleration change in speed. On Earth, the spin is steady, constant, unchanging. You are moving faster than a bullet at the equator, but everything around you, the air, the seas, the ground, moves at the same speed. There is no change, no jolt, no difference to trigger your senses. You don't feel it because your body has no instrument for constancy. Still, the doubts adapt. The stars look fixed, they say. They circle slowly, predictably. Isn't that simpler than imagining Earth spinning beneath them? Simpler, yes, but not accurate. If the stars moved, their distances would betray parallax shifts, their paths would not match the observed arcs. Yet the mathematics of a rotating sphere under a fixed sky matches exactly what we see. Simplicity is seductive, but nature often hides complexity beneath its calm surface. The voices begin to pile up, overlapping, chaotic. Water seeks its level, so how can oceans curve? Why do horizons rise to eye level instead of dropping away? Why can't we see the curve even from a tall mountain? Each one claws at the evidence tower looking for cracks. You breathe slowly, letting the noise wash over you, and you answer. Water does seek level, but level means perpendicular to gravity's pull. On a globe, gravity points toward the center, so level forms a curved surface, like water clinging to a ball. The oceans are curved, though too vast for your eyes to detect. Horizons do not actually rise to eye level, they fall slightly, a fact you can measure with instruments. But the drop is subtle, far smaller than your eyes can register without guidance. Again, scale swallows intuition. And mountains, even Everest, towering almost 9 kilometers, is tiny against Earth's 40,000-kilometer circumference. Climb to the peak, and your view is breathtaking, but the curve beneath you is still too vast to display itself as a clean arc. You see farther, yes, but the arc remains beyond the reach of a single human gaze. One by one, the counter-arguments lose weight. They are clever, but they rest on the same foundation, intuition at human scale. And intuition, as you've learned, is limited. It resists anything too vast, too subtle, too steady. But even as you dismantle them, you feel something important. These counter-voices are not simply wrong, they are necessary. They remind you how fragile perception is, how easily belief can drift away from evidence. They force you to test, to question, to demand more than trust. Without them, you might lean lazily on authority. With them, you must sharpen your reasoning, build the case yourself, step by step. And so you realize the counter case is not the enemy, it is the test. It is the hammer that strikes the tower of evidence, shaking it, probing for weakness. And the tower stands, ships vanish, stars shift, shadows arc, flights bend, time zones divide, gravity pulls, shadows of eclipses curve, all of it survives the tremors. You let this truth sink in. The Earth's curvature is not a matter of belief against doubt. It is a matter of scale, of patience, of collecting pieces too large for any single glance. And the doubts, though persistent, only highlight how extraordinary it is that humans, small and limited as we are, have pieced together the shape of the planet beneath us. But you are not finished, because beyond the test of doubt there is a deeper task, to weave all of this, the evidence and the counter-voices, into a single picture, a synthesis that does more than argue, a picture that explains not only what is true but why it feels false. And as you prepare for that, you sense the story shifting again. The tower has been shaken and it remains standing. Now comes the moment to climb it, to look out from its peak, and to see what the Earth's curve truly means. You stand now before the tower you've built, and before the storm of counter-arguments that tried to shake it down. The tower still stands, the doubts still whisper, both are true, both alive in your mind. And now comes the harder work, not defending one against the other, but weaving them together into a shape that makes sense. Synthesis. You ask yourself, why does the earth feel flat while being curved? Why does perception cling so tightly to one story while reason insists on another? The answer lies not in the sky nor in the seas, but in you, in the way your mind is built, the way your senses edit reality into something you can survive. Think of a goldfish in a bowl. It swims its little circles, glass walls curving around it. To the fish, the world feels infinite, the water level flat, the edges invisible. Only from the outside can you see the bowl's shape. You are that goldfish, but in a bowl so large it becomes almost imperceptible. Your bowl is Earth itself, stretching tens of thousands of kilometers. Your senses evolved for intimacy, for the scale of berries and rivers, predators and pathways. A horizon 10 kilometers away is already beyond the design spec of your vision. To perceive curvature, you'd need eyes as large as cities, or lifespans long enough to track the stars across continents. You were never meant to feel the world's roundness directly. And yet, paradoxically, you do. Not in a single moment of vision, but in the long arc of experience of inference. Each ship that sinks, each star that shifts, each shadow that curves, these are fragments of perception, threads that only reveal their pattern when woven together. This is why science exists, not to replace your senses, but to extend them, to stretch them beyond the narrow window of human scale. Science is your ladder on the tower, your telescope, your clock, your compass. They are prosthetics of perception, allowing you to see truths your eyes alone cannot. But there's something deeper here. It's not only about seeing the curve. It's about recognizing that truth often lives beyond intuition. You are not built to perceive quantum fields or black holes, plate tectonics or evolution across millions of years. And yet, by stitching small clues together, you can glimpse these realities anyway. The flat horizon becomes a metaphor, a reminder that the world is always stranger, deeper, vaster than it first appears. You recall again the counter-arguments, the ones that tugged at your trust. The horizon looks flat, buildings don't lean, the Earth's spin is unfelt. And you realize each of these is true in its own way. The horizon does look flat, buildings do appear upright, the spin is not felt. None of these are lies, they are local truths, they are small-scale truths. But small-scale truths do not cancel large-scale truths. They simply nest within them like dolls inside dolls. Locally, the Earth feels flat. Globally, it is round. Locally, you don't feel the spin. Globally, you whirl at 1,000 miles per hour. Local truth is the mask. Global truth is the face beneath it. And that perhaps is the heart of the synthesis. Your senses give you masks. Science helps you lift them. Neither is wrong, but one is incomplete. You let that realization settle, like dust in still air. The curve of Earth is not an absence you must strain to see. It is a presence too large to compress into your eyes alone. It reveals itself indirectly across space and time. To see it, you must think like a traveler. You must sail oceans, climb mountains, trace shadows, compare skies. You must leave behind the comfortable scale of the village and embrace the planetary scale of the globe. And when you do, the paradox dissolves. The flatness you perceive is not an error. It is the correct local experience of living on a surface so immense that its curve is invisible at human scale. And the roundness you infer is not an illusion. It is the larger truth, assembled from countless local truths stitched together. You can hold both at once, the flat horizon beneath your gaze and the curved earth beneath your feet. Both are real, both belong to you, but each operates at a different scale. This in itself is profound, because the same principle stretches far beyond geography. The world is full of truths that look false up close but true from afar, false in the moment but true over time. Evolution doesn't look like it's happening in the blink of a lifetime, but over eons species rise and fall. Gravity feels like a simple downward pull, but in the vast sweep of space it bends light, warps time, guides galaxies. Your life too has its flat horizons. Days that feel endless, problems that look immovable, choices that seem small. Up close it feels flat, finite. Only when you climb the tower of perspective, years later, decades later, does the curve reveal itself. Only then do you see the shape of your path. The Earth's curve is not just a physical truth. It is a lesson in perspective, a reminder that what is obvious is not always complete, that what feels certain can be partial, that sometimes the deepest truths live not in the surface of sight but in the patience of thought. You stand in that thought, letting it stretch around you like a sky, and something inside you softens. The doubts, the counter voices, they don't vanish, they don't need to. They simply take their place as part of the pattern, part of the way your mind wrestles with scale. And suddenly the horizon feels different. It no longer taunts you with its flatness. Instead, it invites you to imagine the unseen, the vast sweep bending away beneath it. You look at the line and know it is not the end. It is only the limit of what your eyes can gather in a single glance. Beyond it, the earth continues, curving, embracing, carrying you. You smile faintly because the synthesis has done its work. The flat horizon no longer feels like a contradiction. It feels like a clue, a small piece of a larger truth, waiting for you to assemble it with others. And now, standing here with that deeper understanding, you realize there is one more step. You must not stop at synthesis. You must leave the question open, let it breathe, let it stretch into wonder. Because the Earth's curve is not just a fact to prove, it is an invitation to ask what else hides beyond your senses, to wonder what other truths lie just beyond the horizon. The synthesis closes one loop, but it opens another. A door, a passage, a whisper. If the earth hides its curve, what else is concealed by scale, by distance, by time? You feel that whisper like a breeze across your mind, and you know the journey is far from over. The synthesis has settled in you like the slow hush of evening. The horizon no longer mocks you with its flatness. Instead, it whispers of limits, of what can be seen, and of what lies forever hidden just beyond sight. And with that whisper comes a new question, one that tugs at you gently, insistently. If Earth hides its curve, what else does the universe hide? It is not a trivial thought. It is not idle curiosity. It is the recognition that you, a creature of limited senses, are wrapped in layers of reality too vast, too subtle, too distant to ever fit inside the narrow window of your perception. The curve of Earth is only the first veil. Beyond it, there are others. You begin close to home. You think about gravity again, the invisible hand that binds oceans, mountains, bodies, moons. You never see it directly. You only see its consequences, the apple falling, the planet holding its water, the tides swelling with the moon's pull. Just as the Earth's curve reveals itself in ships vanishing and shadows stretching, gravity reveals itself in everything that holds together. And yet no eye has ever caught it in the act. You live within its grip without seeing the strings. Then you step outward, space itself stretches beyond the horizon of Earth into distances so enormous that numbers lose meaning. Galaxies spin, stars burn, light travels for millions of years. Your senses, sharp enough to catch a flicker of movement in the grass, a glint of light on water, are useless at this scale. You cannot feel a star's orbit. You cannot see the expansion of space. The universe curves and folds and drifts, and you are as blind to it as a fish is to the glass walls of its bowl. And yet you are not lost. You have built instruments, ideas, tools, scopes that drink starlight. equations that capture forces in symbols, craft that ride the arc of gravity like a wave, inventions that extend you beyond yourself, making you larger than your senses alone. They allow you to catch hints, fragments, whispers of the universe's hidden curves. Consider time. To your senses, time feels constant, steady, like a river that never changes its speed. But Einstein showed that time bends, stretches, slows near gravity, and speeds in the emptiness of space. You do not feel this bending any more than you feel Earth's spin. Yet your GPS, the satellites guiding you through streets and cities, works only because engineers correct for relativity, because time itself is curving differently above your head than it is beneath your feet. This realization is dizzying. The flatness of the horizon is only a metaphor for the flatness of your intuition. Again and again, the world feels one way but proves another. The earth feels still but spins furiously. Time feels uniform but bends under mass. Space feels empty but trembles with invisible particles. The unseen truths outnumber the seen ones. You let this thought ripple outward. Perhaps every horizon is a kind of lie, not a malicious lie but a boundary lie, an edge painted onto your vision that says this is all there is. But just beyond it always something larger waits. This is why you can never be content with what you see. You must also ask, infer, imagine. The Earth's curve is the doorway to a larger habit of thought, to never accept the flatness of appearances, to always suspect depth hidden just out of sight. You think of sailors again, those who first trusted the stars to guide them into unknown seas. To their eyes, the horizon was an edge, a flat end of the world. To sail toward it was to flirt with falling off, with vanishing. And yet, by daring to move toward the horizon, they discovered not an edge but a circle. The world closed upon itself, round and whole. What does this mean for you? It means that the very things that feel like ends, ends of sight, ends of understanding, are often beginnings. What looks like the limit is usually a curve bending away into something larger. You feel a quiet comfort in that thought, because life too is full of horizons. You stand before them, convinced they are walls, only to discover, sometimes painfully, sometimes with awe, that they are arcs carrying you into places you could not yet see. The hidden curve of Earth is not just a fact of geometry. It is a parable about perception, a reminder that your smallness does not define the whole, that what you see is not all there is. That truth is often hidden, waiting for you to gather the fragments, but the open question remains, pulling you deeper. If the earth hides its curve and the universe hides its structure, how much of reality is always hidden? How much of what you take for certain, flat horizons, steady time, still space, is merely a mask waiting to be peeled away? You feel the weight of that question, heavy and infinite. And strangely, instead of frightening you, it soothes you, because it means there will always be more to find, always more curves beyond the horizon, always another layer beyond what you can see. You look up at the night sky again. The stars glitter, silent and unblinking. Once they seemed fixed in a dome, tiny lights pinned to a flat ceiling. Now you know they are suns, each blazing billions of miles away. Once you believed the earth was the center, the flat foundation of all existence. Now you know it is one sphere among billions. What else will shift? What else will curve away from your first impression? The question hangs, vast, unanswerable, like the horizon itself. And perhaps that is the most important thing to learn. Not the certainty of answers, but the humility of open questions. You breathe slowly, feeling the planet curve beneath you, feeling the pull of gravity, the drift of time, the expansion of space. None of it visible, all of it real. And as your mind drifts with that thought, you realize you are beginning to rest in it. The curve is no longer a puzzle. It is a lullaby. A gentle reminder that you are small, yes, but also connected. You live on a sphere carried in orbits and rotations, part of a pattern far larger than your senses can hold. You close your eyes and the horizon follows you inward. Not flat, not final, but bending, always bending, into something unseen. And you know this, for every question you answer, another horizon will appear. For every horizon, another curve. For every curve, another mystery just out of sight. The story is not ending, it is opening again. The night deepens around you and the air feels heavier now, charged with something you can't quite name. You've stood on the edge of questions before, but this one feels different, bigger. The horizon no longer belongs only to Earth, it has become a symbol, a reminder that the limits of your vision are not the limits of reality. You tilt your head back looking at the stars. For centuries, humans thought of them as tiny lanterns stuck to a celestial dome, as if the sky were nothing more than a painted ceiling above a flat floor. And why wouldn't they? That is what the eye reported. Small points, unmoving, perfect. Only through the slow accumulation of evidence did the story shift. Stars are suns, suns gather into galaxies, galaxies swim in space. The dome dissolved, the floor curved. And suddenly the human story stretched into scales too vast to hold. It makes you wonder, if even the stars once lied to us, what else lies hidden in plain sight? You start with the curve itself. The Earth's horizon is a teacher, patient and quiet. It shows you how something immense can hide behind simplicity. It demonstrates how truth is often indirect, revealed in consequences rather than appearances. Ships vanish hull first, shadows bend, stars shift. All of it whispers what the eye refuses to shout. This is the first lesson. The universe does not exist to be obvious. It exists to be itself. You let that lesson stretch wider. Think about the solar system. To your senses, the sun arcs across the sky each day, rising, falling, pulling shadows along like strings. To your senses, it is the sun that moves and you that stand still. And yet you know it is the opposite. The earth spins, tilting toward dawn, rolling into night. The sun is steady, but your world turns. It is another curve you cannot feel, another truth hidden behind the mask of perception. Your eyes tell you one story, your reason another. And the second is stranger, harder, but more real. Now push farther. The universe itself is curved. Space bends under mass, time stretches, light itself arcs when it passes near stars. None of this is visible to you directly. You see starlight, but not the way it warps as it journeys. You feel time, but not the way it bends differently at mountain peaks and sea level. Yet your machines, your equations, your experiments whisper of these hidden curvatures just as shadows and ships whisper of Earth's. The pattern repeats. Local truth is simple, global truth is strange. Locally the ground feels flat, globally Earth is round, locally the sun appears to move, globally Earth spins, locally time feels steady, globally it bends. Each horizon you encounter becomes another mask, another edge that hides a deeper curve. And so you begin to see the horizon itself differently. It is not a boundary, it is an invitation. The horizon says, here is what you can see. Now imagine what you cannot. You imagine the ocean horizon as you've seen it, flat and endless. Then you imagine rising higher and higher, mountains, plains, balloons, rockets, until at last the line begins to bow, the blue edge bending against the black of space. You imagine astronauts looking down, seeing the Earth as a sphere, fragile and luminous, curving away in all directions. The curve is always there. You only needed to climb far enough to see it directly. And if Earth's curve hides until you climb, what about the universe's? What hidden shapes would you see if you could climb higher still? Beyond the galaxy, beyond clusters, beyond even the visible universe. What horizon would bend there? You let the question settle into you, not as a puzzle to be solved, but as a meditation. Each hidden curve teaches you humility. Each hidden horizon teaches you patience. Together, they remind you that seeing is not knowing, and not seeing is not proof of absence. The horizon before you now feels almost alive. You sense how it has always been part of human imagination. Ancient myths spoke of edges, oceans pouring into voids, pillars holding up the sky, walls at the end of the earth. All of them were attempts to explain the horizon, to give form to what lay beyond sight. They were wrong in detail, but not in spirit. The instinct was correct. The horizon means more than it shows. And perhaps this is why the horizon still fascinates you, still draws your gaze. It is both familiar and mysterious, both flat and curved, both limit and promise. You sit with that contradiction. It feels like sitting with yourself, because aren't you too a horizon? You appear one way to others, simple, flat, immediate. And yet inside you curve away into depths invisible, complexities unseen. Just as the earth is more than its horizon, you are more than what meets the eye. The thought is strangely comforting. The hidden curve of the world is mirrored in the hidden curve of your life. The visible is never the whole. You return once more to the question that started all this. Can you see Earth's curve with your own eyes? The answer, you realize, depends on what you mean by see. If you demand a single, sweeping arc visible from the beach, then no, you cannot. But if you allow yourself to see indirectly, to see through patterns, through consequences, through shifts and vanishings, then yes, you can see it everywhere. The Earth's curve is not hidden from you. It is stitched into your experience, waiting only for you to notice. You breathe deeply, letting the realization expand, but the open question lingers. If Earth hides its curves so well, what other curves remain unseen? What truths lie just beyond the next horizon, waiting for you to climb high enough, or patient enough, or curious enough to glimpse them? You close your eyes and the image forms, horizon upon horizon, each one flat at first, each one curving away once you climb. An endless ladder of scales, each revealing what the last concealed. And you realize the world will never stop curving away from you. The hidden will never stop outnumbering the seen. This is not despair, it is wonder. It is the gentle knowledge that you will never run out of mysteries, never exhaust the unseen. The horizon is not an end. It is a promise that something more always waits. And so you rest in that thought. The horizon curves, the earth curves, the universe curves. And you, small, human, limited, are carried along those curves, part of them shaped by them, even if you cannot see them all at once. The horizon in front of you shimmers faintly in your imagination, bending, softening, stretching into something larger. You let it be. You let it stay unfinished, open, curving away into the dark. Because some questions are not meant to be closed. They are meant to carry you slowly, gently, toward the next horizon. The horizon has become more than a line, more than a question of sight. It is a threshold now, a boundary between what you know and what you can only imagine. And you find yourself wondering not just about the curve of Earth, but about the history of how humans came to believe in it at all. Because once upon a time, the roundness of the world was not obvious. It had to be wrestled from doubt, pulled from observation, built slowly like the very tower of evidence you climbed. You picture yourself centuries ago, standing in a village, staring at the same horizon you see tonight. Flat, steady, unyielding. You have no telescopes, no airplanes, no satellites. Just your eyes, your footsteps, and the stories passed down to you. What would you believe? Would you imagine the earth stretched flat forever, endless like a sheet of parchment? Or would you suspect it was curved, hiding its shape from you? History tells you both answers existed. Many early cultures pictured a flat earth, sometimes a disk floating on cosmic waters, sometimes a plane held by pillars, sometimes a surface carried on the back of a great turtle. These weren't foolish tales, they were attempts to explain the world with the evidence at hand. The horizon looked flat, so the earth was flat. Simple, obvious. And yet, in other places, other minds asked harder questions. Ancient Greek thinkers noticed ships vanishing over horizons. They measured shadows in different cities at the same moment. They watched the stars rise and fall with travel. Bit by bit, they pieced together the unseen. Eratosthenes, with his simple sticks and shadows, measured the Earth's circumference so well that modern science still marvels at his precision. The story repeats across cultures. In India, scholars imagine the cosmos as cyclical, vast beyond measure, hinting at a curved Earth to match the curved heavens. In the Islamic Golden Age, astronomers refined the measurements, calculating Earth's size with remarkable accuracy. Across oceans, Polynesian navigators read the swell of waves, the flight of birds, the shape of stars, and in doing so, they read the curve of Earth without naming it so. And what unites these stories is not the conclusion but the method, the refusal to stop at what seems obvious, the willingness to ask, what if my eyes deceive me? You feel a kinship with them, because you too stand at the horizon tonight, torn between what looks flat and what you know is curved. You too wrestle with doubt and evidence. You too must decide whether to trust the simplicity of appearance or the complexity of inference. And this history teaches you something profound. Humans are capable of seeing beyond sight, not by sharpening the eye but by sharpening the mind, by testing, comparing, connecting, by realizing that truth can be indirect, hidden in patterns rather than appearances. You pause and let that thought expand, because it applies not only to the Earth's shape but to everything you know. How much of your knowledge is really like this, built not from what you see directly, but from consequences, from shadows, from whispers of something larger. Think about atoms. You've never seen one. Your eyes cannot pierce that small. But you believe in them because of what they explain: the colors of fire, the structure of matter, the behavior of gases. Atoms are not visible, yet their fingerprints cover everything. Think about evolution. You've never watched a species transform in front of you. The timescales are too slow. But you see fossils, DNA, the branching of life, and from those pieces you infer the unseen story of change across eons. Think about the universe itself. You cannot see its edge, cannot even be sure it has one. And yet you infer its expansion from the redshift of galaxies, from the faint whisper of cosmic background radiation. In each case, the pattern is the same. You cannot see the curve directly, but you can see enough to know it is there. The horizon of Earth is simply the first lesson in this long curriculum of humility. It says, trust your senses, but not completely. Trust them to guide you through daily life, but not to reveal the shape of the cosmos. For that, you need imagination, patience, instruments, community. You need to extend yourself beyond yourself. You let that realization sink in, and the horizon takes on a new glow in your imagination. It is no longer the end of vision. It is a teacher, a quiet instructor that has trained humans for thousands of years to think beyond the obvious. But there is another layer, one that touches you personally. The horizon does not only teach about the world, it teaches about you. Because you too have horizons, the edges of what you think you know, the limits of your perspective. When you stand at the border of confusion, staring at something that feels impossible, you are at a horizon. And just like the Earth's, that horizon is not flat finality. It is a curve bending away into something larger. The flatness of life's horizons, the unsolvable problem, the unbearable loss, the endless day may feel like walls. But history whispers they are curves. They carry you somewhere you cannot yet see. You smile faintly at this thought because it comforts you in ways you didn't expect. The same principle that explains the disappearing ship can explain your own life. What seems to vanish may only be hidden by the curve, waiting just beyond sight. The horizon bends outward, and you bend with it. Still, the question tugs again, deeper this time. If Earth hides its curve, what about the universe itself? Astronomers say the cosmos may be curved, bent not in two but in four dimensions. A geometry too vast for the human brain to picture, let alone perceive. You live inside this curvature, as blind to it as an ant crawling across a balloon. The ant sees only a flat patch of rubber beneath its feet. Only when it walks far enough does the roundness reveal itself. But can an ant ever walk far enough? And can you? Perhaps not. Perhaps your life is too short, your tools too fragile. Perhaps the ultimate curve of the cosmos will remain hidden forever, always just beyond the next horizon. But perhaps that is not a tragedy. Perhaps it is a gift, because it means the horizon never runs out. It means wonder never runs dry. You sit with that, feeling its weight. You are small, you are limited. And yet you are capable of glimpsing truths too vast for your senses, capable of building ladders of thought that climb beyond the obvious, capable of standing at the horizon and instead of fearing it, asking what it hides. The horizon glows faintly in your imagination one last time before it fades into night. And you realize that you will never look at it the same way again. It is not a line, it is a promise, and promises are not meant to end. You imagine yourself leaving the ground. At first it is familiar, the sway of trees shrinking, the roads becoming lines, the rivers curling like silver veins. From an airplane window, you've perhaps glimpsed the horizon stretching farther, the sky darkening slightly, the world flattening into a map beneath you. Even then, the horizon still looks straight, the curve still elusive. But climb higher, past the cruising altitude of jets, past the thin ceiling where air thins into nothing, past even the weather balloons that drift into silence. Here on the edge of space, the horizon begins to betray itself. A faint bow, a gentle arc of blue against black, not dramatic, not sweeping, but enough. The first whisper of the truth you've been chasing. And if you rise higher still, into orbit, into the company of astronauts, the curve becomes undeniable. Not a suggestion, not an inference, but a view. The Earth bending away in all directions, luminous and whole, a marble swirled with clouds, delicate in its roundness. The horizon is no longer a flat edge but a circle, a boundary of completeness. Naught speak of this moment with reverence. Some call it the overview effect. From up there, borders dissolve, nations vanish, conflicts shrink into invisibility. All that remains is one world, round and fragile, curving beneath them. Many describe it as life-changing. Some weep, some fall silent. All agree the curve is not just seen, it is felt. And you, standing at your small horizon, can almost imagine it. You can imagine looking down and realizing that everything you've ever known, every memory, every war, every joy, every loss fits on that one sphere. A world so vast up close, yet so small from above. A world with limits, a world that bends. This is the second great lesson of the curve, not just that it exists, but that it humbles. It reminds you that your home is finite, that there is no endless plane, no infinite floor stretching forever. You live on a ball suspended in blackness, fragile and temporary. And fragility changes everything. You remember the astronauts' words, how they saw not just the curve but the thinness of atmosphere, the delicate film of blue air hugging the planet like breath against glass. How they realized in an instant how easily it could be lost. From Earth, the sky feels infinite. From orbit, it looks like a whisper, a thread. You realize how precious it is only when you see it from the outside. But you cannot leave the planet. You are here at sea level, standing beneath stars, unable to see the curve with your naked eyes. So what does this lesson mean for you? It means that humility is not reserved for astronauts. You can borrow their vision through imagination, through empathy, through reflection. You can remind yourself as they do that the world is not flat and endless but curved and finite. That your horizon, though it feels boundless, is part of a closed circle. That what looks infinite is not. There is something calming in this recognition. To know the world is round is to know it is whole. To know it is finite is to know it is shared. No edge to fall from, no endless plane to get lost in, only a curve that carries you back to where you began. Philosophers, too, wrestled with this long before rockets. Some said the Earth's roundness was a metaphor for completeness, for perfection. A circle has no beginning, no end. A sphere encloses itself, needing nothing outside to define it. For them, the curve was not just physical but spiritual, a sign that the cosmos itself had order, harmony, symmetry. Others disagreed. They saw in the curve a reminder of limits, of mortality. To walk long enough is not to escape but to return. Every path curves back on itself, every journey circles home. There is no escape from finitude. The curve is a cage, a reminder that you live inside boundaries that cannot be broken. You feel both truths at once. The curve is freedom and limit, perfection and prison, wholeness and fragility. And perhaps this is what makes it so haunting. You think again of the horizon, you see its flatness, you know its curve. And now layered on top of both, you sense its symbolism. It is not just a line between sea and sky. It is the shape of your life, your world, your understanding, always appearing flat, always bending beyond sight. It makes you wonder, if you could see Earth's curve every day, would you feel differently? Would you live differently? If every time you looked up you saw the world bowing beneath you, luminous and small, would you take your life more seriously or more lightly? Would you cling harder to your days or release them more easily into the flow of time? The astronauts say yes. They say that once you see the curve from above, you never forget. Some describe a sudden sense of unity, of urgency to protect the fragile world. Others feel an existential vertigo, the smallness of human affairs compared to the vastness of space. For all, the curve becomes a mirror, reflecting not just Earth's shape but their own. You stand here at your ordinary horizon, and you realize that maybe you don't need orbit to feel it. Maybe it is enough to imagine, to picture the arc bending away, to know that it is there even if your eyes don't reveal it. Maybe the unseen curve is more powerful than the seen one, because unseen truths require faith, not blind faith, but reasoned faith. Faith in evidence, in connection, in inference. Faith that the world is larger than it looks, that your senses are not the final judge. To live in awareness of the unseen is to live with humility, curiosity, and wonder. The curve of Earth, then, is not just a fact of physics. It is a practice of perspective. It asks you gently, will you trust the limits of your eyes, or will you dare to imagine what lies beyond them? You let that question echo in you. It feels soft, almost like a lullaby. Because in the end, whether or not you can see the curve with your naked eyes is less important than knowing it is there. Less important than letting it shape the way you understand the horizon, yourself, the universe. The horizon before you darkens, the stars grow brighter, the night deepens. And you realize the curve is not something you must chase endlessly. It is already beneath you, holding you, carrying you in circles. You are always inside it, always part of it, always moving along it, whether you notice or not. The question, can you see Earth's curve with your own eyes, now feels transformed. It no longer means, is the curve visible to sight, but is the curve visible to imagination, to thought, to humility? And the answer, quietly, is yes. You breathe slow and deep. The horizon curves, the world curves, your life curves. And as you stand within it, you feel a kind of peace. Because the curve is not only a boundary, it is also a circle. And circles, no matter how far they bend away, always return you home. You close your eyes for a moment and imagine walking. Just walking one step at a time forward without end. Across meadows, over mountains, through deserts, across oceans if you had the tools. Always forward, never turning back. What happens? On a flat earth you might expect to wander forever. Always more land, more distance, more horizon. No natural return, no curve to bring you home. But on a sphere your steps trace an arc. You walk, and if you endure long enough, you arrive back where you began. Forward becomes circle, straight becomes loop. The earth teaches you something profound here, that journeys are not always lines. They are curves, cycles, returns. You do not escape the world by moving forward. You circle back to yourself. You think of explorers who discovered this firsthand. Ferdinand Magellan's expedition set out in the 16th century, sailing westward, driven by ambition and danger. They crossed oceans unknown to them, traced coastlines, endured storms. Many ships did not return, many lives were lost. And yet, years later, the survivors sailed back into the same harbor they had departed. By going forward, they had returned. Their path had curved, circled, looped. This was not just a geographical revelation, it was a human one. To prove the earth was round was to prove that beginnings and endings are often the same. That what looks like departure may secretly be return. And isn't life like that? You chase the future, imagining it as something new, something utterly separate from the past. But time too curves, old lessons return, old faces reappear, old questions cycle back in new forms. Your path, no matter how straight it feels, often bends. The seasons remind you. Spring blossoms into summer, summer burns into autumn, autumn fades into winter, and winter softens into spring again. Round and round, year after year. A cycle so dependable you hardly notice its curve until you pause to reflect. The days remind you. Dawn to noon, noon to dusk, dusk to midnight, midnight back to dawn. Always looping, always returning, carried by the spin of the globe beneath your feet. Even your breath reminds you. Inhale, exhale, expansion, contraction, the curve of rhythm in your own chest. The Earth's roundness is not just about geography. It is about pattern. It tells you that life is not only a line from birth to death, but a series of circles, small ones, large ones, overlapping and interwoven. This doesn't mean there is no progress. Circles are not prisons, they are spirals, often climbing, often widening. The seasons return, yes, but each spring is different. Each day dawns anew, even as it echoes the one before. You return, but never to the exact same point. The circle carries you forward even as it brings you home. And this, too, is humbling, because it means that the hidden curve you seek in the horizon is already mirrored in every rhythm of your existence. You don't need to fly into orbit to feel it. You feel it in the cycles of your body, your days, your years, your relationships. You live inside circles whether you notice them or not. But the horizon keeps tugging, because its curve is larger than any circle you can walk in a day or a year. Its lesson is cosmic. I think again of the sailors, the explorers, the astronauts. Each of them reached beyond their horizon, and each of them discovered not an edge but a return. The Earth's curve turned their journeys into loops. It showed them that the unknown was not infinite but finite, round, bounded. This, perhaps, is the strangest gift of the curve. It reassures you that your world is not endless chaos. It has shape, closure, form. To live on a curved earth is to live inside something whole. And yet there is tension here, because closure can be comforting, but it can also be confining. To know the earth is finite is to know resources are limited, that borders are not infinite, that there is no a way to throw things. The curve makes the world precious. It also makes it fragile. The astronauts felt this most sharply. From space, they saw the Earth not as a vast plane but as a small sphere, finite and delicate, wrapped in a paper-thin atmosphere. They saw the curve and felt urgency. Urgency to care, to protect, to live differently. You too can feel this if you imagine hard enough. The horizon that looks flat in front of you is not infinite. It bends into a circle that holds every person you've ever known, every breath you've ever taken, every story ever told. That flat line is the edge of a sphere, and the sphere is all you have. There is beauty in that, and responsibility. You stand again in your imagination looking out. The horizon feels both familiar and strange, flat and curved, limit and promise. And now, layered upon it, you feel its circularity, its invitation to see life itself as a curve looping back, carrying you not away but home. You wonder how this changes the way you live. If you believe in straight lines, you chase endlessly forward, searching for ends. You imagine escape, progress, victory, finality. But if you believe in curves, you begin to notice returns. You notice patterns. You notice the way endings are beginnings in disguise. You notice the way forward is also back. The Earth's curve teaches patience. It tells you that no step is wasted, even when it feels like you are circling. It reminds you that circles are not failures but structures, the way life sustains itself. And it tells you too that nothing is infinite. Not the Earth, not the horizon, not your own time. The curve closes everything, and that closure makes it meaningful. You breathe slowly, you let the thought sit in you. Can you see Earth's curve with your own eyes? Perhaps not in the way you imagine, not as a great arc sweeping beneath your feet, but you can see it in ships, in stars, in shadows. You can feel it in journeys, in seasons, in breath. You can live inside it every day because you already do. The horizon is not the end of sight. It is the shape of your world. A curve, a cycle, a circle, always bending, always returning, always reminding you that you are part of something round, finite, complete. And yet, even as you rest in that thought, you sense another horizon beyond it. Because if the Earth curves, what about the universe? Does it too loop back upon itself? Does it too turn every straight path into a circle? Or is it different, open, infinite, uncurved? The question rises like another horizon before you, flat at first, waiting to be climbed, waiting to reveal its hidden curve. And you feel ready for it, because the horizon has taught you how to look. You feel the question swelling larger now, rising like a tide inside your thoughts. The Earth curves, but what about the universe? What is the shape of everything? Is space itself bent, looping back on itself like a giant sphere, or does it stretch endlessly outward, flat and infinite, without closure? The horizon you've been staring at, the one that feels so close and ordinary, suddenly becomes a metaphor for the cosmic horizon. Because just as your eyes cannot see beyond the curve of Earth, your telescopes cannot see beyond the curve of the universe. There is always a limit, always an edge of vision beyond which lies the unseen. Astronomers call it the observable universe, the bubble of space from which light has had time to reach us since the beginning. Beyond that, you cannot see, not because nothing is there, but because light has not yet had enough time to cross the void. The cosmos might be finite or infinite, curved or flat, but to you it always appears like a horizon, a boundary line painted onto your perception. You let this sink in. Just as the horizon on Earth feels like an end but is not, the edge of the observable universe may feel like a wall but is only a limit of sight. Beyond it, something continues. You cannot say what, you cannot say how, but the lesson of the curve whispers to you again: appearances are never the whole. You recall Einstein, who showed that space and time themselves can curve. Mass bends them, light obeys them, gravity is their expression. The universe, then, is not a flat stage but a flexible fabric. And just as the surface of Earth bends into a sphere, space might bend too, wrapping back upon itself, looping so that if you traveled far enough, you might return to where you began, as explorers once did upon the sea. But it might not. The universe might be flat, stretching forever without return. Or it might be saddle-shaped, curving outward endlessly, open and unbounded. The truth remains hidden, just beyond the reach of your instruments, just beyond the cosmic horizon. You feel the weight of this uncertainty. The Earth's curve is knowable. You can measure it with sticks and shadows, with ships and stars. But the curve of the universe, that is a question that might never resolve, at least not within your lifetime, perhaps not within human history. You live inside a mystery larger than your species. And yet, isn't that fitting? The horizon of the cosmos should be mysterious. If it were simple, obvious, small enough for your eyes to declare the answer, it would not be the universe. You sit quietly with this paradox. You cannot know the ultimate curve, but you can imagine. You can let the possibilities wash over you one by one. If the universe is closed, curved like a sphere, then everything is finite. Every star, every galaxy, every breath has its place inside a cosmic circle. The universe is whole, bounded, eternal in its returning. It means there are no edges, only loops. Every straight path bends. Every outward journey comes back home. That is comforting in a way. You live inside a cosmic embrace. But if the universe is flat and infinite, then everything stretches without end. No return, no closure, only unending distance. Galaxies forever beyond galaxies, stars forever beyond stars, horizons forever beyond horizons. That too is humbling, because it means your world, your Earth, your very existence is smaller still, one speck in an infinity too vast to imagine. And if the universe is saddle-shaped, curving outward endlessly, then reality itself is stranger still, open, expanding, never repeating. A cosmos that bends but never closes, a horizon that recedes forever. Which of these is true? You do not know. Humanity does not know. Perhaps no creature can ever truly know. And strangely, you find peace in that. Because the horizon has taught you that not seeing is not failure, it is invitation. The unseen curve of Earth led to ships, to exploration, to science. The unseen curve of the universe leads to questions, to wonder, to humility. You do not need to solve it tonight, you only need to feel its pull. You breathe deeply and picture the universe curving away, not as a fact to be nailed down, but as a shape to be imagined. You picture space like the surface of a balloon, expanding, stretching, galaxies drifting apart as the balloon inflates. You picture space like an endless flat sheet, galaxies scattered across it like dust. You picture space like a saddle bending outward, sweeping away into infinite openness. Each picture humbles you. Each picture reminds you how small your daily horizon is compared to the scales of reality. Each picture invites you into awe. And awe is the point, because whether the universe curves back or stretches forever, whether it is finite or infinite, you live inside it. You are part of it. Your breath, your body, your thoughts are all shaped by it. To wonder at its shape is to remember that you belong to something larger than yourself, something larger than Earth, larger than history, larger than imagination itself. You glance again at the horizon in your mind. It looks flat, but you know better, you know it bends. And you know that beyond that bend lies another horizon, and another, all the way to the edges of the observable universe. And beyond that, something you cannot see, cannot touch, cannot measure. This is the open loop the curve has always carried you toward. The recognition that every horizon is temporary. that beyond every limit lies another, that to live is to walk toward horizons you cannot yet see, trusting that they will reveal themselves in time. The curve of Earth began as a question. Can you see it with your own eyes? But it has become more. It has become a metaphor for everything unseen, everything larger than perception, everything that lies just beyond the next horizon. You feel yourself softening into that thought. The unknown is not something to fear. It is something to rest inside, the way you rest inside the curve of Earth itself, held, carried, cradled by forces you cannot fully see. And maybe that is the deepest answer of all. You cannot see the Earth's curve with your eyes, not in one glance, not in one place, but you can live inside it. You can trust it, feel it, let it remind you of the unseen curves still waiting. The stars above seem brighter now, the horizon darker, the earth steady beneath you. You close your eyes and let the question remain open, infinite, curving away into silence. Because some horizons are not meant to be crossed, they are meant to be wondered at. And in that wonder, you find rest. The universe curves or it doesn't. It closes upon itself or it stretches endlessly outward. You don't know and you may never know. But the question lingers, bending quietly back toward you. Because it is not only the cosmos that hides its curve, your own life does the same. Think of how often you stand at the edge of a personal horizon. A decision, a moment of change, a challenge. To your eyes, it looks like an ending, a flat line. You cannot see beyond it. You cannot imagine what lies on the other side. It feels final. But later, days, months, years, you look back and realize it was not an end at all. It was a curve, a bend that carried you somewhere you couldn't yet see, the job you lost that led you to a new path, the relationship that ended only to circle into lessons, growth, even new love. The moment of despair that impossibly curved into resilience. The Earth's horizon is not unique. It is a mirror of your own horizons. Both appear flat, both conceal, both bend into shapes you can only recognize in hindsight. You let this realization sit inside you for a while, it softens you, because it means that not knowing is not failure. Standing at the horizon of your life, unable to see beyond, is not proof that there is nothing there. It is only proof that the curve is hidden, as curves always are, until you move forward. This changes how you face uncertainty. Instead of demanding to see the path ahead in full, you learn to trust the bend, to accept that what looks flat will reveal its curve in time, to walk not with certainty but with faith in the unseen. And this is not blind faith. It is evidence-based faith grounded in the pattern of nature itself. Ships vanish hull first, those shift with latitude, stars sink below the horizon. Life too bends this way. You think again of the explorers sailing into the unknown. To them the horizon looked like an end, perhaps even a danger. Yet they sailed anyway, and what they discovered was not the edge of the world but its roundness. The horizon was a curve, not a wall. Your own unknowns are like that. They invite courage, they invite movement. They whisper, sail forward even if the horizon looks flat. Trust that it bends. There is comfort in this, but also a quiet challenge. Because sometimes the curve is not gentle. Sometimes it carries you into storms before it carries you back into calm seas. Sometimes it bends through grief, loss, hardship. To trust the curve is not to deny the pain. It is to know that the pain, too, belongs to a larger arc, one that carries meaning even when you cannot see it yet. The horizon hides the future just as it hides the shape of the earth. Both ask for patience, both ask for humility. Both ask you to admit that your eyes alone are not enough. You breathe slowly, letting this truth wash through you. You have stood at horizons before, you will stand at them again. And each time you will feel the same temptation to believe they are flat, final walls. But now you know better, now you know they bend. You wonder if this is why the horizon has always fascinated poets and dreamers, why it appears again and again in art, in myth, in story. The horizon is not just geography, it is psychology. It is a symbol of the unseen, the unknown, the future. And always it plays the same trick, looking like an end, being a curve. You recall a simple truth: no matter where you stand on Earth, the horizon is always there. It always appears the same distance away, always flat, always unreachable. And yet, as you move, it moves. It never abandons you, but it never yields either. It is always one step ahead. Life's horizons are the same. You chase clarity, certainty, finality, but each time you approach, the horizon shifts. Each time you think you've arrived, you discover only another curve, another horizon. There is no final edge. There is only endless bending. At first, this may seem cruel, but then you realize it is what keeps life alive. If you could see everything, if all horizons were revealed at once, there would be no mystery, no wonder, no journey. The hidden curve is not a trick against you. It is a gift to keep you moving, learning, imagining. And this ties you back to the larger cosmos. Just as the universe conceals its ultimate shape, your life conceals its ultimate story. You do not know what lies beyond death, beyond time, beyond the last horizon. You may never know, but perhaps not knowing is part of the design. Perhaps the curve is not meant to be seen until you reach it. The thought calms you. You realize that to live is to stand always at horizons, to walk always toward unseen curves. The Earth's horizon taught you this first. Now life itself confirms it again and again. You open your eyes to the night sky. The stars look steady, flat, tiny, but you know each one is a sun, vast and blazing. You know their positions shift with latitude, with time, with orbit. You know they hide their true distances, their true powers, their true fates. The sky, too, bends away from what it appears. Everywhere you look, the pattern repeats. The hidden curve, the unseen depth, the truth that looks flat but bends beyond sight. You feel almost dizzy with it now, not in a fearful way, but in a way that expands you. As if the hiddenness of things is no longer a frustration but a quiet beauty. You do not need to see everything. You only need to trust that what looks flat will one day reveal its arc. The question that began this journey, can you see Earth's curve with your own eyes, is now almost unrecognizable. It has grown, widened, curved into something else. Now it feels like it asks, can you see the unseen curve in your own life? Can you accept that what looks final is often only bending? You breathe again, steady and slow. The air feels lighter. The night feels larger. The horizon feels softer. And inside you another horizon appears. The thought of death, the ultimate unseen curve. To your eyes it looks like a wall, a flat edge. But perhaps, like every horizon before it, it bends. Perhaps it carries you into something you cannot yet imagine. Perhaps the hiddenness is part of the arc. You don't need to answer that now. You don't need certainty. The horizon is not there to give you closure. It is there to give you awe. So you let the question remain open. You let the horizon bend in silence. You let yourself rest in the curve, unseen but certain, carrying you forward even as you stand still. And slowly, quietly, you realize you no longer need to see the curve with your eyes. You can feel it with your mind. You can trust it with your heart. You can live inside it with your life. The horizon glimmers once more, faint and infinite. You close your eyes, you rest in its promise, because the curve is always there, even when you cannot see it, especially when you cannot see it. The horizon is not just a scientific puzzle. It has always been a symbol, woven into human imagination long before satellites confirmed the Earth's roundness. Every culture, every tradition, every age has looked toward that flat line and filled it with meaning. And so the curve of Earth, unseen directly, has also lived as myth, story, metaphor. Imagine an ancient traveler standing on a shore staring at the sea. To them, the horizon was both promise and threat. It was where the known ended and the unknown began. Beyond it lay monsters or gods or treasure or nothingness. Whole mythologies bloomed in that space. The Norse imagined a great serpent circling the world beneath the oceans, its body the hidden curve. In Mesopotamia, the heavens were a dome resting upon the earth's flat surface, waters stretching beyond. In Polynesian traditions, navigators read the horizon like a language, each wave and star a syllable of meaning. The horizon was not just geography, it was cosmology. It explained what lay beyond human reach. And always the curve was hidden. No one could see it plainly. So people told stories to bridge the gap, to give shape to the unseen. Even in later centuries, when philosophers and mathematicians began to argue for a spherical Earth, myths persisted. Some described the round Earth as a symbol of perfection. A sphere, after all, is the only shape where every point on the surface is equal, every direction the same. Others spoke of it as a symbol of confinement, no escape, no edge, only endless return. Religious traditions, too, carried the horizon into their metaphors. The flatness of sight became a lesson in faith. We walk by faith, not by sight, wrote one scripture, echoing the reality that the horizon conceals. Mystics in many traditions used the imagery of circles and cycles to describe spiritual journeys, loops of birth and death, endings and beginnings, the unseen arc of eternity. The horizon has always whispered of mystery. Science did not remove that whisper, it only changed its language. When Galileo lifted his telescope to the heavens, he saw moons circling Jupiter, proving that not everything orbited Earth. He saw the phases of Venus, confirming the heliocentric model. And yet what he really saw was another horizon bending away. The cosmos was larger than anyone had believed. His telescope extended the eye, but it also extended the horizon. When Newton described gravity, he explained why apples fell, why planets orbited, why the moon stayed tethered to Earth. But he also revealed another unseen curve, space itself bending in obedience to invisible forces. When Einstein came centuries later, he deepened the metaphor again. Gravity was not a force at all, but the curve of space-time. The cosmos itself bent, and you lived within that bending. The horizon was no longer just Earth's. It was the event horizon of black holes, the cosmic horizon of the universe, the bending of time itself. Each age has expanded the metaphor, never destroying it. The horizon has remained a teacher, even as the lessons changed. And here you are in the 21st century, staring at the same flat line that ancient sailors stared at. You know it curves, you know the evidence, but you also know that it hides itself as it always has. And in that hiding, it invites you into the same wonder that birthed myths, philosophies, religions, and sciences before you. The horizon is a mirror. It shows you not only the limits of your sight, but the limits of your mind. It teaches humility by refusing to yield. It forces you to imagine, to infer, to trust what you cannot see directly. You wonder, why does this matter? Why does it matter that the earth curves if you cannot see it with your own eyes? The answer lies not only in geometry, but in meaning. To live on a curved earth is to live in a world that is both finite and vast. Finite because the sphere is bounded, vast because it is larger than your senses can hold. That paradox shapes you. It keeps you small but curious, limited but restless. And perhaps that is why the horizon has always carried spiritual weight, because it reflects the condition of being human, trapped between finitude and infinity, between what you see and what you sense must be there. You think again of the myths of the world serpent, the cosmic dome, the endless sea. None of them were literally true, but all of them were emotionally true. They captured the feeling of standing at the horizon, the mixture of fear, awe, and curiosity that has always haunted human beings. Science, too, carries that feeling. Equations replace serpents, telescopes replace myths, but the awe remains the same. To stand at the horizon of Earth or of the universe is to feel your smallness against the vast, and smallness paradoxically expands you. You close your eyes and imagine the myths and the science blending together. The serpent becomes the orbit of satellites circling endlessly around the globe. The dome becomes the atmosphere, fragile and finite. The endless sea becomes space itself, vast and dark. The metaphors evolve, but the feeling remains. And that feeling is the true curve, the hidden arc that bends your perception into wonder. You let yourself rest in it, because at some point the question, can you see Earth's curve with your own eyes, becomes less about physics and more about imagination, less about sight and more about meaning. The truth is that you cannot see it, not directly, not from where you stand, but you can feel it in your bones, in your breath, in your myths, in your science. You can sense it the way you sense time passing, or love deepening, or grief bending you. Invisible but undeniable. And this is the gift the horizon offers you. Not certainty but awe, not resolution but wonder. The horizon curves, the myths circle, the science bends. You are caught in the middle, a small human looking out at a line that is never what it seems. And maybe that is exactly where you are meant to be. You breathe slowly, the night deep around you, the horizon faint but steady. You do not need to see the curve. You only need to know it is there. You only need to feel the weight of its mystery pressing gently against you, inviting you to wonder, to imagine, to rest. The myths dissolve, the science remains. The horizon lingers, and you stand between them as humans always have, staring at the line, knowing it bends. And as you stand there, you sense another horizon rising in your thoughts, not Earth's, not the universe's, but the horizon of meaning itself. What does it all amount to? What does the hidden curve teach you, beyond awe, beyond science, beyond myth? You do not know, not yet, perhaps not ever, but you know enough to keep walking, enough to trust the bend, enough to let the horizon carry you forward. The curve is there, the curve has always been there. You live inside it, you are part of it. And that, for now, is enough. The horizon has been myth, metaphor, and science lesson. But there is another layer you cannot avoid, the horizon as warning, because the Earth's curve does not only tell you that the planet is round, it tells you that the planet is limited, finite, bounded. Stand at the shore and stare outward. The line looks endless, yes, but you know it bends. Walk long enough, sail long enough, and you return to where you began. There is no infinite stretch of land, no infinite sea. Every horizon eventually curves back. That means something urgent. The Earth is not bottomless, it is not boundless. Its resources, its spaces, its air, its oceans, all of it is finite, wrapped inside the curve. For centuries, people lived as if the Earth were flat, at least in practice, as if you could travel forever without return, as if you could throw waste away, as if the world's resources were endless. But on a curved Earth, there is no away. Everything circles back. Trash dumped into the ocean washes up again. Smoke sent into the sky loops into climate. Choices made in one part of the sphere ripple across the rest. The curve of Earth is not only a geometry, it is an ecology. It demands responsibility. This truth came slowly. Explorers circled the globe and realized its finitude. Scientists mapped the continents and measured their boundaries. Astronauts looked down and saw the whole in one view, a blue sphere hanging in blackness, no edges, no endlessness. The overview effect was not just awe, it was urgency. The curve revealed fragility. From orbit, Earth does not look like an infinite resource. It looks like a fragile bubble, its atmosphere a thin shell, its oceans a delicate film, its forests a thin layer of green. Everything precious lies inside that curved boundary. Everything vulnerable too. You pause here, letting this image settle. The horizon that once seemed abstract, flat but curved, hidden but real, is now suddenly intimate. It is not just a trick of perception. It is a reminder that you live inside a sphere that can be harmed, exhausted, undone. The curve bends you back into yourself, into your responsibility. And yet this responsibility is not only burden, it is also connection. Because to live on a finite sphere means you are linked to everyone else. What happens at one curve of the horizon ripples to the other. A fire in one forest affects the air across continents. A choice in one city echoes in oceans far away. The curve erases illusions of separation. Just as the horizon is not an edge, nations are not isolated. Borders are abstractions drawn on a round world. From space, astronauts see no borders, only the curve, smooth and whole. That vision unsettles you, but it also soothes, because it means you are never truly alone. Every breath you take carries atoms once exhaled by others. Every sip of water carries molecules cycled through oceans, clouds, rains, rivers countless times. The curve ensures connection, and connection means fragility is shared, but so is resilience. You think again of the horizon in front of you. Its flatness hides not only curvature but also this interdependence. The air above you belongs to all. The sea before you belongs to all. The land beneath you belongs to all. The curve does not allow hoarding, it circles back. This is why the horizon has become a political and moral symbol, not just a scientific one. Environmentalists speak of planetary boundaries, invisible lines you cannot cross without consequence. Economists speak of limits to growth, the recognition that infinite expansion is impossible on a finite sphere. Activists speak of one Earth, the reminder that all nations, all peoples share the same curved home. You see now that the question, can you see Earth's curve with your own eyes, has another answer. Yes, you can, not only in ships or shadows, but in crises and recoveries. You see the curve when plastic drifts across oceans, when smoke darkens skies half a world away, when viruses leap from one horizon to the next. The curve is not only a line on the sea, it is a reality of connection. This is heavy, but it is not despair, because the curve also holds beauty. Think of rain. Water evaporates, rises, travels across the curve, condenses, falls again. The same molecules cycle through oceans, clouds, rivers, and bodies. You drink the same water dinosaurs once drank, the same water that fell on ancient forests, the same water that will fall on future fields. The curve carries continuity. Think of breath. Oxygen produced in forests and oceans flows around the curve, sustaining life everywhere. Each inhale you take is a global gift. Each exhale joins the shared reservoir of air. You do not breathe alone. The curve makes it impossible. Think of soil, the nutrients that feed plants, that feed animals, that feed you, cycled endlessly through decay and renewal, through loops that never end because the curve never ends. The horizon hides these connections just as it hides the shape of the earth. But once you know the curve, you see them everywhere. The world is a system, whole, finite, circular. Nothing leaves, everything returns. And perhaps this is the deepest teaching of the curve. Not only that the earth is round, not only that your senses deceive, but that you are inside a circle of responsibility. What you do matters because the curve brings it back. You breathe slowly, letting this truth steady you. The horizon in front of you is quiet, flat as ever, but now it holds layers. It is not only a line of sight, it is a symbol of finitude, fragility, connection. It is both limit and link. You wonder if everyone could see Earth's curve with their own eyes. Not only the geometry but the meaning. Would we live differently? Would we act differently knowing there is no away, no infinite plane, no edge to escape? The astronauts say yes. Many of them returned from orbit with changed lives, changed priorities. Seeing the curve from above made the fragility undeniable. It made the whole planet feel like one home, one circle. They carried that vision back, hoping others would feel it too. But you don't need to go to orbit. You don't need to see the literal curve. You only need to imagine, to infer, to trust what the horizon hides. You can feel the responsibility in your breath, your water, your soil. You can feel it in the curve itself. And perhaps this is the answer to the open loop you have been carrying. The curve is unseen because it is not meant to be obvious. If it were obvious, you would take it for granted. By hiding itself, the curve forces you to reflect, to imagine, to connect. The horizon bends, the earth curves. The planet closes upon itself, finite and fragile. And in that closure lies both responsibility and beauty. You let the thought linger like the afterglow of sunset. You do not need to solve it. You only need to live inside it. Because the curve is not only out there, beyond the horizon. It is in here, inside your choices, your connections, your breath. And as you stand beneath the night sky, horizon dark, stars faint, earth silent, you realize you have always been seeing the curve, just not with your eyes, with your life. The horizon, you realize, is not only a teacher of space, it is a teacher of time. Its hidden curve whispers not only of Earth's roundness, but of the loops you live through, the arcs of memory and history that bend just as surely as geography does. You think first of days. A single day feels like a line, sunrise, noon, sunset, night. One direction, one flow, but zoom out and the line curves back on itself. Night bends into dawn, dawn into day, day into dusk, dusk into night again. The curve of Earth spins you in cycles, turning your sense of time into loops. You are carried whether you notice or not. The same is true of seasons. Each winter feels final, each spring feels new, each summer feels eternal, each autumn feels fading, yet all return. The Earth's tilt bends sunlight differently across the curve and time itself becomes circular. Years pass like rings of a tree, each distinct yet repeating. History too carries curves. Empires rise, fall and rise again in echoes. Wars break and heal only to break again. Technologies appear, vanish, reappear in new forms. Human history is not a straight line but a spiral, repeating patterns at different scales, looping back even as it moves forward. Memory mirrors this. You live your life as if moving forward, always toward the future. But your mind bends backward constantly, circling into childhood, into old joys, into old losses. The past returns in fragments, smells, songs, faces, curving into the present. You never escape it. Your personal timeline is a circle, not a line. The curve of Earth is reflected in these temporal arcs. Just as you cannot see the roundness of the planet from one vantage point, you cannot see the shape of your life from a single moment. Only with distance does the curve emerge. Only with perspective do you see that beginnings and endings are often the same, that departures bend into returns. Think of journeys you've taken. You leave home convinced you are going somewhere entirely new. Yet when you arrive, something of home is already there. The familiar hidden in the foreign, the same emotions dressed in new clothes. And when you finally return, home itself is transformed, not because it changed, but because you curved around it. You pause here, sensing the depth of this. Life itself is round, not in the literal sense of reincarnation or rebirth, though some traditions hold that too, but round in the sense of pattern, of rhythm, of recurrence. You are shaped by cycles, just as Earth is shaped by its spin. Even death, the ultimate horizon, carries this whisper of return. To your eyes, it looks like a flat edge, final and absolute, but many traditions have imagined it as a curve back into earth, back into stars, back into mystery. Whether in literal reincarnation or in the recycling of atoms, death curves into continuation. Nothing ends cleanly, everything bends. You think again of Eratosthenes placing his sticks in the ground to measure shadows. He thought he was measuring the Earth's circumference. In a way, he was also measuring time. The angle of light at one place, the angle at another, combined to reveal the curve. It was geometry, yes, but it was also patience. To see the roundness of the world, he had to measure across distance and difference. Time was part of the experiment. And this is true for you as well. To see the roundness of your own life, you must measure across time. You cannot know in the moment what an event means. Only later, when you look back, do you see the curve, how the heartbreak bent into growth, how the failure bent into opportunity, how the loss bent into empathy. The horizon hides the future, memory hides the meaning of the past. Both are curves only visible in retrospect. This humbles you because it means you live blind always. You stand in the present, staring at a flat horizon of time, unable to see how it bends. Yet you walk anyway, trusting that the arc will reveal itself. Just as you trust the Earth's roundness, you trust life. You think of history again. Whole generations have stood at horizons, believing them to be final. The fall of Rome, the plague of Europe, the world wars. To those living inside them, each must have felt like an ending, a flat wall of history. Yet centuries later, you see the curve, recovery, renewal, transformation. The arc bent, even when no one inside it could see. This does not mean the suffering was unreal. It means the curve is larger than any moment of suffering. Just as the Earth's curve is larger than any horizon, history's curve is larger than any single event. And this, you realize, is another layer of the question. Can you see Earth's curve with your own eyes? The answer is the same as for life, not in a single glance, not in a single moment, but across time, yes, always yes. Or the horizon teaches patience. The curve teaches perspective. Together they teach trust. You sit with this, letting it calm you, because it means that whatever horizon you face now, personal, historical, cosmic, it is not flat, it only looks flat, it bends always. And perhaps that is why the horizon is so beautiful, because it holds both mystery and promise. It hides the future, yes, but it also promises that the future exists, that something lies beyond, that the line is not an end but a curve. You breathe and the rhythm itself becomes another example. Each inhale feels like a beginning, each exhale feels like an end, but together they loop into continuity. Breath curves into life. Even your heartbeat is curved. Each beat a cycle, systole into diastole, contraction into release. A flat line on the horizon of a heart monitor is death. Life is curve, always curve. The horizon before you is flat, the earth beneath you is curved, the time within you is curved, the history around you is curved, the breath sustaining you is curved, The heart inside you is curved. The question again and again is not whether you can see the curve, it is whether you can trust it. And trust, you realize, is another word for faith. Not blind belief, but the willingness to move toward unseen bends. The willingness to walk into horizons that look flat knowing they curve. You close your eyes and the night wraps around you. The horizon fades, the stars glow, the earth spins curving you into tomorrow. You rest in the rhythm, the loops, the cycles. You do not need to see the whole arc, you only need to live inside it. Because you already do. The horizon is a line, but humans have never let it remain only a line. They have painted it, sung it, written it, dreamed it. The unseen curve has always seeped into art and story, because art, like science, tries to reveal what the eyes alone cannot. You think of painters first. Seascapes, endless and flat at first glance, always hold a secret, the sense of depth, of bending away, of something more than a flat surface. The horizon in a painting is never just a boundary, it is a mood, a promise, a danger, a mystery. J.M.W. Turner painted stormy seas where ships seemed to vanish into the mist, swallowed by curves you couldn't quite see. Caspar David Friedrich painted solitary figures staring out at horizons, their backs turned to you, their gazes fixed on lines that hinted at something beyond sight. The curve was not painted literally, but you felt it emotionally. Writers have done the same. Homer's Odyssey begins with a man lost on seas, his fate bent by horizons that refuse to reveal what lies beyond. Dante's Divine Comedy traces a journey through circles, literal spheres of heaven and hell, where each horizon opens into another. In poetry, the horizon often stands for longing, for the unreachable, for the hidden future that bends away just out of reach. And music too has its curves. A melody rises, falls, circles back. Themes return, transformed like seasons bending into one another. Listen to a symphony and you feel the horizon of sound, moments that seem final only to return, motifs that vanish only to reappear. The hidden curve of music is what gives it life. Without return, without repetition, without cycles, sound would be only noise. The curve makes it song. You notice that in every art form the horizon appears, sometimes literally as a painted sea or a written journey, sometimes metaphorically as a theme of longing, mystery, return. Always it echoes the same truth. What looks flat bends into something unseen. This makes sense because art is not about recording what the eyes see. It is about evoking what the eyes cannot see. Art is humanity's way of painting the curve onto the flat horizon of experience. You think of myths again, but now you see them as art. The serpent encircling the earth, the dome of heaven above, the turtle carrying the world, these were not failed science experiments. They were artful attempts to express the feeling of the horizon, the sense that the world is larger than it looks, rounder than it appears, bent into mystery. Even modern literature has kept this alive. Science fiction often imagines horizons that bend into the unknown, black holes with event horizons swallowing light, wormholes curving space into shortcuts, universes folding upon themselves. These are scientific speculations, yes, but they are also art. They give shape to the unseen, just as Turner and Friedrich gave shape to the curve of seas and skies. And you realize maybe art and science are not so different. Both begin at the horizon, both recognize its flatness, both suspect its hidden curve. Science proves it with shadows and ships. Art evokes it with metaphors and melodies. Together, they create a fuller picture of the unseen. You pause and think about your own horizons, the ones you felt not on maps or in telescopes but in your chest. Times when you stood at the edge of something you couldn't name, the first time you left home, The first time you lost someone, the first time you fell in love, each felt like a horizon, flat, final, overwhelming, and yet each curved into something else. Grief into tenderness, departure into return, love into memory. If you were an artist, how would you paint that? If you were a composer, how would you write it? Perhaps you already do in small ways, in the way you tell your stories, in the way you mark your days, in the way you remember, repeat, revisit. You are already an artist of curves, even if you do not name it so. This brings you back to the question, can you see Earth's curve with your own eyes? Maybe the answer is no in the strictest sense, but through art you can feel it. You can see it in the painted ship vanishing, in the poem about longing, in the song that circles back. Art is how humanity has always seen what eyes cannot. And here is something beautiful. Even when people believed the earth was flat, their art betrayed them. Their stories circled, their songs repeated, their myths bent into loops. Without meaning to, they revealed the truth. They lived inside a curve, and they could not help but express it. You smile at this thought. It means the curve was always known, even when it was denied. Known not in geometry, but in rhythm, not in sight, but in feeling. You let your mind drift to the horizon again, the real one, the line between sea and sky. If you were to paint it, you would not paint it flat. You would paint it with depth, with mystery, with a faint bowing away. If you were to write it, you would not write it as an end. You would write it as a beginning disguised as an end. If you were to compose it, you would not let it stop. You would let it resolve only to rise again. This is how you know you already see the curve. Not with your eyes, but with your imagination. Not with your sight, but with your creativity. And perhaps that is the point. The earth hides its curve so that you will be forced to imagine it. And in imagining, you expand yourself. You create art, science, story, song. You reach beyond what you can see. The horizon, then, is not only a limit, it is a muse. It has inspired myths, paintings, poems, symphonies, equations. It has pulled humans forward for thousands of years, always offering the same invitation. Here is a line, it looks flat. Now what will you make of it? You breathe deeply, letting the thought soften you. The horizon is not there to frustrate, it is there to inspire. Its hidden curve is a challenge, yes, but also a gift. You look again at the horizon in your mind, flat, silent, endless, and yet beneath its surface, bending, curving, inviting. You let it stay that way, not solved, not fully seen, but felt. And in that feeling you realize, art and science, myth and story, sight and imagination all bend together like arcs of a circle. All return to the same truth. The curve is there, unseen but undeniable. The horizon holds it, the world reveals it, your mind paints it. And perhaps that is the final beauty. You do not need to see the curve directly. You already live inside the art of it. The horizon has inspired art and myth, but it has also shaped something more practical, technology. The hidden curve of Earth, though unseen directly, has always demanded solutions. To move across this world, to measure it, to map it, humans had to wrestle with the fact that the Earth bends away beneath them. Think first of navigation. On a flat Earth, maps would be simple, straight lines would stay straight, distances would add up neatly. But on a curved Earth, everything bends. Sail far enough west and you arrive east. Draw a straight line across a globe and it becomes a great circle, the shortest path curving differently than your intuition expects. Navigators had to learn this. Sailors had to trust it. Pilots still depend on it. Consider longitude and latitude. These are not flat coordinates like a grid on paper. They are arcs, slices of a sphere. To measure position on a globe, you must think in curves. Latitude circles around, parallel to the equator. Longitude stretches pole to pole, converging into points. A map projection flattens them, yes, but the true system is round. Every GPS device you use today depends on this curved logic. And think of compasses. The magnetic field of Earth wraps around a sphere. A compass needle does not point straight north in the flat sense. It follows curved lines, magnetic arcs. Pilots and sailors must correct for declination, for the way magnetic north bends differently from true geographic north. Again, the hidden curve reveals itself not directly, but in the adjustments you must make. And technology after technology arose because the Earth is curved. Sextants for measuring stars against the horizon. Clocks precise enough to measure longitude across seas. Scopes revealing the bending of shadows. Lights orbiting in arcs, falling around the curve endlessly. Even something as ordinary as communication carries the signature of curvature. Radio signals follow the roundness, bouncing off the ionosphere, wrapping across distances hidden by the horizon. Fiber optic cables stretch across ocean floors, linking continents not in straight lines but along the curves of seabeds. Every phone call, every internet connection is shaped by the Earth's roundness. The irony is this: the more technology proves the curve, the less you see it. Maps flatten it for convenience. GPS gives you directions without demanding you understand great circles. Airplane paths appear strange on flat maps, but computers calculate them without needing you to see the reason. The hidden curve becomes hidden even in practice, disguised by tools that work because of it. You realize now that the question, can you see Earth's curve with your own eyes, is too narrow. The real question is, can you see how Earth's curve has shaped everything you do? Because even if your eyes cannot declare the arc of the horizon, your technologies whisper it constantly. Think again of Magellan's voyage circling the globe. They did not need to see the curve to prove it. They needed only to return home from the opposite direction. A journey itself was evidence. Travel is proof. Every airplane that departs and arrives by curving across the globe is proof. Every satellite that orbits is proof. And yet the paradox persists. Because the more global your technology, the more invisible the curve becomes. You fly across oceans in hours and the arc is smoothed into an itinerary. You send a message instantly across the world and the distance bends into nothing. The curve is everywhere, and yet it hides itself more cleverly than ever. You pause here, struck by the thought. The Earth's curve is not only unseen by eyes, it is unseen by habits, by tools, by conveniences. You live inside a round world and everything you do is shaped by it, yet you rarely think about it. Perhaps this is why doubt lingers for some. The curve is so hidden, so subtle, so taken for granted that it feels like absence. It is too ordinary to inspire confidence, too background to demand attention. But isn't that the nature of deep truths? They vanish into normality. Gravity pulls, but you rarely think of it. Air sustains you, but you rarely notice it. The curve bends every journey, every signal, every calculation, but you rarely acknowledge it. This realization humbles you, because it means that the most important truths of life are often hidden not by distance, but by familiarity. They are too close, too constant, too ordinary to see. You breathe slowly and the thought widens. The hidden curve of Earth is not only a lesson in science, it is a metaphor for how truth hides in daily life, how the patterns that shape you most are the ones you overlook. The curve hides in every flight you take, every message you send, every map you read. The curve hides in every journey that circles back, every connection that loops around. The curve hides in the ordinary, waiting for you to notice. And perhaps this is why it matters to ask the question at all. Can you see Earth's curve with your own eyes? Not because you need to in order to live, your technologies already assume it, but because the act of asking wakes you up. It reminds you that the ordinary hides the extraordinary, that the flat horizon is a disguise, that you live inside a miracle of geometry, whether you see it or not. You think again of satellites. Each one orbits because the Earth curves beneath it. Each one falls endlessly, missing the ground because the ground bends away. That is what an orbit is, falling forever around a curve. Without the Earth's roundness, satellites would crash or drift into nothingness. Your weather forecasts, your phone calls, your navigation all depend on falling curves you cannot see. You think of airplanes again. The shortest path between cities is not what your eyes expect. From Los Angeles to Tokyo, the path bends northward, tracing a great circle. From New York to Paris, it bends across the Atlantic in a shallow arc. You may look at the flight map and wonder why, but the reason is the same. The Earth curves and straight lines on a sphere are not straight to intuition. Everywhere you look, technology betrays the curve. Everywhere, the hidden arc shapes you. And yet, even with this knowledge, the horizon tonight remains flat, silent, still. The curve is invisible. You smile softly because you know now that invisibility is not absence. It is presence disguised. You do not need to see the curve with your eyes to know it shapes you. You live inside its evidence. You breathe inside its proof. The horizon is flat, the earth is curved, both are true, and the beauty lies in holding both at once. You let the thought settle like a compass needle coming to rest. The curve is unseen, but it is everywhere. The curve is invisible, but it is undeniable. And perhaps that is the deepest lesson. Not all truths must be visible to be real. Some are carried in shadows, in cycles, in technologies, in journeys. Some are known not by sight, but by consequence. The curve of Earth is one of these. And as you rest beneath the quiet sky, you realize that the question has led you far beyond itself. You no longer ask only about sight. You ask about truth itself, about how much of reality bends away unseen, waiting for you to infer, to imagine, to trust. You close your eyes, the horizon fades, the curve remains. The curve of Earth has carried you far already, through ships and shadows, through myths and maps, through art and technology. And yet the question keeps bending back into something deeper. Not just what is the shape of the world, but what does it mean to live inside truths you cannot see? Philosophy has wrestled with this for centuries. Plato imagined his cave, where humans saw only shadows on walls, mistaking them for reality. The unseen curve of Earth is a kind of cave wall. Your senses report flatness, and without questioning, you might believe the world is flat. But philosophy whispers, perhaps what you see is only shadow, only surface. Reality bends beyond sight. You think of Descartes, who doubted everything, even his own senses. His eyes could deceive him, his dreams could trick him, his memories could falter. And yet he found certainty in one thing, his own thinking. I think, therefore I am. The curve of Earth echoes this. Your senses deceive you with flatness, but your reason, your thinking, reveals the curve. Kant went further. He argued that you do not see the world as it is, but only as your mind shapes it. Space, time, causality, these are forms your mind imposes. Perhaps the horizon feels flat not because the Earth is flat, but because your perception is built to see it that way. The roundness is real, but your brain edits it into something usable. You are trapped in your own perceptual cave, seeing reality through filters you cannot remove. And then there is Nietzsche, who laughed at certainty altogether. He would tell you, even the idea of truth is a human construction, a metaphor that hardened over time. The Earth's curve, the horizon's flatness, both are interpretations, both are ways of making sense of a chaos too large to hold. For him, the point was not to cling to one version of truth, but to embrace the endless horizon of perspectives. You sit with these voices in your mind. Each sees the horizon differently. Plato warns you not to trust appearances. Descartes urges you to doubt your senses. Kant reminds you that your perception is not neutral but structured. Nietzsche insists that truth itself is curved, shifting, perspectival. And together they circle the same lesson. The visible is not the whole. This strikes you as both unsettling and liberating, because it means that your eyes alone will never be enough. And yet it also means that imagination, philosophy, science, art, all of these are not luxuries but necessities. They are the ways you glimpse the unseen curves. You think again of the simple question, can you see Earth's curve with your own eyes? And you realize it was always philosophical. It was always about the limits of perception. The curve is real, measurable, undeniable, but your senses refuse to show it plainly. You live in a paradox carried by a truth you cannot directly see. Isn't life like that? You are shaped by love, but you cannot see love. You are driven by time, but you cannot see time. You are sustained by air, but you cannot see air. All the most important truths are invisible to your eyes. The curve is only one more reminder. You breathe deeply and let that thought soften you, because it means that not seeing is not failure. It is the human condition. You are not built to see everything. You are built to wonder, to infer, to imagine. You are built to live inside mysteries without exhausting them. The horizon becomes a symbol of this. You see its flatness, but you know its curve. You feel its limit, but you imagine its beyond. It is both shadow and truth, both deception and revelation. Philosophers often speak of the sublime, the feeling of encountering something too vast for the mind, too overwhelming for the senses. Oceans, stars, death. The curve of Earth belongs here too. It is too large for your eyes, too subtle for your sight. But when you reflect on it, when you feel its presence beneath you, you sense the sublime, smallness, awe, humility, wonder. And the sublime is not only aesthetic, it is ethical. To feel small is to feel connected. To sense your limits is to sense your responsibility. The curve teaches you that you live inside something larger, something shared, something you cannot control but must care for. You pause again, letting this sink in. The earth curves beneath you whether you acknowledge it or not. Reality bends beyond sight whether you acknowledge it or not. Philosophy invites you to live with that tension, to act as if truth matters even when truth is never fully seen. This is why the horizon feels eternal, because it is not just a line in the distance. It is a reminder of your condition, always seeing partially, always living inside curves too large to hold, always reaching for what bends away. And perhaps this is the greatest lesson of the hidden curve, to cultivate humility, not the humility of despair but the humility of wonder, to know you cannot see everything and yet to keep looking, to know you cannot know everything and yet to keep asking, to know you cannot hold everything and yet to keep caring. The horizon glows faintly in your imagination. It is still flat, still stubborn, but now you see it as an ally, not an enemy. Its flatness is the surface of a deeper truth. Its deception is the doorway to wonder. You smile softly at this thought, because it means you no longer need to demand visibility. You no longer need to chase proof in one glance. You can accept the horizon as it is, knowing what it hides, trusting what it bends. And suddenly the question feels gentler. Can you see Earth's curve with your own eyes? No, not directly, but yes, in every way that matters. Through ships, through stars, through shadows, through journeys, through art, through philosophy, through awe. The horizon will always appear flat. Your life will always feel like a line. But beneath both, the curve remains, bending you into circles, spirals, cycles, returns. And that is enough. You breathe again, slow and deep, and let the night settle around you. The stars are faint. The air is cool. The earth curves quietly beneath you, unseen but undeniable. You close your eyes and rest inside its arc. Because the horizon does not need to be solved. It only needs to be trusted. You have walked far with this question, ships and shadows, stars and cycles, myths and philosophies, technologies and horizons. And still the question bends forward, never quite closing. Can you see Earth's curve with your own eyes? At this point, you know the answer is layered, directly. No, not from a beach, not from a mountain, not with the naked eye alone. Indirectly, yes, everywhere, in vanishing ships, in shifting constellations, in eclipses, in flights, in time zones. Imaginatively, always, in art, in poetry, in philosophy, in metaphor. But what do you do with this layered answer? What does it mean to live inside a truth you cannot fully see? You begin by noticing how it unites. Science shows you the curve through evidence. Philosophy shows you the curve through doubt and humility. Art shows you the curve through feeling and metaphor. Technology shows you the curve through practice. Together they form a circle, each returning you to the same truth. The horizon is not what it seems. This unity itself is a kind of curve. Each discipline bends toward the same center. Each horizon, whether mathematical, poetic, or philosophical, circles back to the same hidden roundness. You live inside a web of perspectives that curve into one another, overlapping, reinforcing, deepening. And isn't that what knowledge itself is? A curve. Never a straight line to truth, but an arc of approaches, looping, bending, returning. You cannot arrive at reality directly, you circle it. You approach from angles, you gather fragments until the shape emerges. This humbles you because it means that no single way of knowing is complete. Eyes alone are not enough. Equations alone are not enough. Stories alone are not enough. Each is partial. Each bends. The roundness of earth demands many approaches. The roundness of truth demands the same. You let this thought settle like a stone into water, its ripples widening. The unseen curve becomes not just a feature of earth, but a principle of life. Reality is round. Knowledge is curved. Meaning is circular. You think again of circles in your own life. Conversations that return to old themes. Lessons you must learn again and again, each time deeper. Friendships that fade and return. Memories that cycle back unbidden, shaping you anew. Nothing moves in a straight line, everything bends. The earth beneath you is round, the time around you is circular, the stories you live are loops. The horizon itself is a circle, wrapping you whether you see it or not. You pause and the question becomes quieter. Less about sight, more about trust. Less about proof, more about perspective. The truth is that you do not need to see the curve to live inside it. You already do. Every breath, every step, every glance at the horizon confirms it, even if invisibly. And so the question begins to dissolve. Can you see Earth's curve with your own eyes? Perhaps the deeper truth is you do not need to. The horizon is a teacher not because it reveals everything, but because it withholds. Its flatness forces you to imagine. Its deception forces you to reflect. Its limit forces you to wonder. Without the hidden curve, you might not ask. Without asking, you might not grow. You realize now that the horizon has been guiding you all along, not toward an answer, but toward a way of seeing. To stand at the horizon is to practice humility. To know the earth is curved is to practice wonder. To live without seeing is to practice trust. And isn't that what life itself demands? You walk into futures unseen. You love without guarantees. You act without certainty. You live without full knowledge. The horizon is your condition, always flat to your eyes, always curved beneath your feet. This is why the question matters. Not because the curve needs proving. It has been proved 1,000 times. but because the horizon reflects you back to yourself, your limits, your wonder, your need for trust. You breathe deeply and the night feels vast. The stars shimmer, the air cools, the earth curves silently beneath you, holding you in an arc you cannot see but can always feel. You think of astronauts again. Looking down, seeing the curve directly, they described not only awe but responsibility. They saw the roundness, the fragility, the unity. They returned with a message: the earth is whole, shared, finite. You live together inside its curve. You cannot see what they saw, but you can imagine it. You can let their words bend into your own understanding. You can let the unseen curve remind you that you belong to something round and fragile and shared. And perhaps that is enough. To live as if you see, to act as if you feel, to trust what bends away unseen. The question lingers still, but it has changed shape. It is no longer about sight. It is about perspective. It is about whether you are willing to let unseen truths guide you, whether you are willing to live as if the curve matters, even when your eyes deny it. The horizon glows faintly in your imagination one last time tonight. Flat, silent, clear. And yet you know it bends, you know it curves, you know it carries you forward, back, around again. You let it stay that way, unfinished, open, bending, because that is its gift. The horizon is not there to resolve. It is there to keep you wondering. And so, as you rest beneath the sky, you realize that the real question is not can you see the curve, but can you live with it unseen? You smile faintly, because you already do. You have traveled far with a question that began simply: can you see Earth's curve with your own eyes? At first, it seemed like a technical puzzle, a matter of optics, of altitude, of distance. You imagined the horizon flat as always, and you wondered, is the curve hidden or absent? And now, after shadows and ships, after myths and science, after art and philosophy, you stand at the edge of that question once more. The horizon is still there, still flat, still familiar. And yet, something inside you has changed. Because you know now that the question was never only about the curve of Earth. It was about the limits of sight, the patience of reason, the power of imagination. It was about what it means to live inside truths too vast for your eyes. The Earth curves, that much is certain. The evidence is everywhere: ships vanishing, stars shifting, shadows bending, satellites orbiting. But the curve hides itself, stretching across distances too large for your body to hold. And so you are left with paradox, living inside a truth you cannot see. This paradox has become your companion. At first it unsettled you. Your eyes insisted on flatness while your mind whispered of roundness, but slowly the tension softened. You learned to trust both: the horizon's flatness as a local truth, the Earth's roundness as a global one. Each real, each partial, each bending into the other. You discovered that the hidden curve is not failure but invitation. An invitation to wonder, to imagine, to connect. An invitation to see how much of life is like this: love, time, memory, meaning. All unseen directly, all real through consequence. You walked with philosophers who warned you not to trust appearances. You walked with artists who painted horizons into mystery. You walked with explorers who sailed into the unknown, only to return where they began. You walked with astronauts who looked down from orbit and wept at the sight of the curve, fragile and whole. And all along, the horizon remained flat to your eyes. All along, the curve remained hidden. You realize now that this is its gift. If the curve were obvious, if the Earth screamed its roundness in every glance, you would not wonder, you would not imagine, you would not connect myth to science, art to philosophy, self to cosmos. The hiddenness is the point, the flatness is the teacher. The horizon hides the curve so that you must seek it. and in seeking you grow. This thought softens you into stillness. The night is quiet, the air is cool, the stars glow faintly above. The horizon stretches flat before you, but now it feels like more than a line. It feels like a threshold, a boundary between the seen and the unseen, the known and the unknown, the local and the global. And as you rest in that threshold, you sense one more layer, the curve of your own life. You began with a question. You wandered through evidence and doubt, through synthesis and philosophy. You circled through art and myth, through technology and fragility. And now you return full circle to the horizon. The journey itself has curved, looping back, beginning and ending at the same place. This is the secret of circles. They carry you outward only to return you inward. They disguise return as departure, ending as beginning. They teach you that everything bends back one way or another. Your life bends this way too. You move forward, convinced of lines, only to discover arcs. You chase futures that return to pasts. You face endings that open into beginnings. You live on a round earth, and you live inside a round story. The horizon is flat, the earth is curved, your life is both. And so you arrive at the final version of the question. Not can you see Earth's curve with your own eyes, but can you trust unseen curves at all? Can you trust that what looks like an end may bend into something more? Can you trust that what looks flat may be hiding depth? Can you trust that the world is larger than you see, larger than you know, larger than you can ever hold? You breathe slowly. The answer is not certainty. The answer is not proof. The answer is rest. To rest in the possibility, in the promise, in the hiddenness. To rest inside the curve itself. You picture the horizon one last time, silent, straight, familiar. And then in your mind you climb higher, up mountains, into plains, into orbit. The horizon bends, soft at first, then undeniable. The curve reveals itself. Blue sphere, fragile marble, luminous arc, your home curved and whole. You let the image fade. You let the question remain. You let the horizon stay open, because that is what horizons are for. Not to be closed, but to keep you walking, wondering, imagining. And as you drift into stillness, you feel the truth settle like a tide. The curve is unseen, but you live inside it. The horizon is flat, but it is only a disguise. The world is larger, rounder, stranger than your eyes admit. And that strangeness is not something to solve, it is something to rest in. You close your eyes, the earth curves quietly beneath you. The night bends gently around you. The horizon stretches flat, hiding what it always hides. And you, small and human, rest inside its mystery. The curve carries you, whether you see it or not. The horizon holds you, whether you understand it or not. And the unseen bends into you, whether you trust it or not. You breathe once more, inhale, exhale, the cycle continues, the circle holds, the curve bends, the horizon waits, and you drift gently into the unseen.